Hey everybody, this is First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. So we're going to do an update on this potential snow event for Thursday. There is a lot of moving parts with this, so I'm going to be completely transparent and straightforward with everything we're looking at. The stuff we're seeing tonight is not the storm we're talking about. The stuff out there right now, all this rain, that is actually the front that's going to bring the cold air. So if you look at this, this is the cold front right there, which is sliding down to the south and east. And in fact, let me change the color of that so it's a lot easier for you guys to see that. I like using a yellow pen. So there we go. That front is sliding to the south. So pretty heavy rain tonight. No snow tonight, obviously. But as we look at the temperature map, I'm going to show you the air mass behind this because that's the key part. You could see how cold this air is up here. Now the heart of it's going to stay up here in the Midwest, but some of this is going to sneak down here into the Carolinas. So that's part of the scenario for Thursday. At the same time, the same front that is over us tonight causing the rain is going to push to the south, but not all the way. It's going to get down to about right here. And I'm going to stop the map right here. And you can see the front is stalled down to the south. A wave of low pressure is going to form back to the west. This energy is going to transfer to the coast. And we call this kind of setup sometimes, depending on how the low transfers, a Miller A or a Miller B setup. And what happens is when we get low pressure developing on the coast, it throws moisture back inland. If you've got high pressure up here to the northwest, supplying cold air, that's our recipe for winter weather. But in this scenario, the cold air is coming in almost the same time as this storm system. Now the storm system is going to help us out a little bit. What it's going to do is try to produce its own cold air through dynamic cooling. The lifting of this air mass as the low cranks up on the coast actually could help cool this air mass down over the Carolinas. And those are all the big question marks that we have when we're forecasting this event. So you can see this updated map. I actually can't even catch up. It flies off to the coast, but you see the band of snow it creates across the Carolinas. Now this is starting to come more in line with the GFS model, the NAM model, which is crazy, but there's one outlier. It's the European model. It's the model that we look at quite a bit, and the fact that it's not on board gives you a little bit of pause. And I'm just going to show you the snowfall comparison for all the guidance. These are the tools we use. These aren't my forecast, but if we look at all the totals here, hopefully my head isn't the way. I'm actually going to remove my head there so you can see this. So this is for Charlotte, snowfall comparison. If you look down here through Friday morning, this kind of gives you the comparison of all the snowfall totals for Charlotte. They range as low as 0.2 inches to as high as 3.9. But the thing is, in every single one of those guidance outputs, we're seeing some form of snow in our forecast. So that's why when we look at this, we say, okay, there's the probability of snow. The amounts are really uncertain. Now, do I believe we're going to get this huge amount? Probably not. One of the things about living in the Carolinas long enough, you'll realize there's always mixing. There's going to be rain or sleet mixing in, which reduces our totals. The ground's going to be warm, the temperature's the kind of air, a lot of melting. So we're likely not going to achieve these totals. These totals are what the model thinks in a perfect situation where there's no melting. It's a 10-to-1 liquid to snowfall ratio. And oftentimes we just don't have that perfect setup. So that's why oftentimes when you see these high totals, while it does show snow, you can't read too much into those amounts because of the potential of them being reduced by mixing or melting. So we showed you this setup several times. This is a setup for no snow. The setup we're watching for coming into a picture a little bit better for Thursday is the heart of the cold air being up in here and the track of the low being just perfect near the coast. Now, a lot of my weather followers, people who follow these things, know there's a northwest trend sometimes in the guidance. You got to be careful with that northwest trend because while I do sometimes see these trends back to the northwest, if this track gets any further inland, that starts bringing warm air and the warm nose in, which eventually reduces snow totally. So while if you're a snow lover, and I know that you're all out there, a lot of people love to see snow, you do not want to see this trend of this track getting farther back to the west, because what happens is this starts pulling warm air in. People often wonder, well, if the track's closer to us, why does that mean less snow? Because this low spins counterclockwise, it pulls warm, moist air in from the southwest, and as that warm, moist air pushes north, it warms the air. You want to be in the perfect spot where this cold high and this low are just far enough apart that you get that perfect band of heavy snow. It's kind of the sweet spot. That's why forecasting events like this are hard. Where does that perfect band set up? So right now, there's some indications it could be over us, but small changes could shift that dramatically. And I'm going to explain how that works by showing you a close-up version of our future cast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through time. We'll go through Thursday morning. I'm going to stop this Thursday afternoon. That looks pretty awesome, right? That's a whole lot of snow, temperatures in the mid-30s. I'm going to do something interesting here. I have the ability to do what we call grid adjust. I can adjust what the model thinks is going to happen by small variations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the short range guidance here, and I'm going to change the distance of the rain snow line by, I'm not going to go west to east. I'm going to change it by, let me zero this out again. I'm going to change it by 25 miles north. Okay, that's just 25 miles. Let's change it to 50 miles. Look what happens to the rain snow line. Let's change it by 60 miles. Look at the rain snow line. Conversely, let's go negative 25 miles. That's where the rain snow line is. Let's do this 50 miles difference. That's the difference. Then let's go east or west. Let's go 25 miles east. Let's go 50 miles east. So you can see how these aren't huge changes in the grand scheme of things when we're talking about the entire state of the Carolinas, that these small changes, can have huge impacts on the forecast. So let's change, the amount of precip. Let's subtract moisture. Let's add moisture. I'm going to do it, but that's just a 2% change in moisture. Let me reduce it by 10%. That's what happens. Let's increase it by 10%. I'm doing this because I'm trying to show you that how these small changes have huge impacts. That's plus 10, which would be a whole bunch of moisture. So you can see how the small changes can really have a big influence on this. And I always like showing that because it's kind of illustrates exactly what's going on. So let me go back and we'll look at the raw data. Do you want to save grid adjust? No, I do not. So we'll go through the future and I'll show you how quickly the system moves out. One thing to notice here, the temperatures, they're in the mid-30s. You don't see a lot of sub-freezing temperatures. So even with that heavy snow, it can accumulate. But what is likely going to happen in this scenario is that snow is going to fall. It's during the daylight hours. It's going to be melting. It'll accumulate on grass, on car tops, rooftops. It'll be melting the whole time. But it probably won't be that bad on the roads unless it falls real quickly. What'll be interesting is as we go into Thursday night and early Friday, this is about midnight. I'm going to pull this full screen so you can see this. notice the temperatures are at freezing. So anything wet, even if this falls as rain on Thursday, Friday morning could be really icy because we're likely going to see things ice up and refreeze. And I'm going to stop this at 7 a.m. Friday morning. And you could see those temperatures with anything wet on the ground. That's going to be a problem. So it almost doesn't really matter what falls on Thursday. If it's rain, melting snow, heavy snow, light snow, it's probably going to be Friday morning. There's going to be issues regardless because the temperature is going to fall into the upper 20s to about 30, and we're likely going to see a pretty good freeze as we go into the morning hours. So as far as snow totals, I'm going to make this update later tonight, but I want to show you where I stand right now. And again, I know this is a little bit lower than some of the other guidance, but this is also higher than some of the other guidance. I'm kind of doing the forecast based on experience and what the guidance is telling us right now. I do think up to 1 inch of snow is possible across a big chunk of the Piedmont. I think back into the mountains, we could see 1 to 2 inches with higher amounts near the Tennessee line. But this is what I want to draw your attention to right here, which is right over my head. And I'm going to pull this back to this monitor so you can see this. Let me play this and widen it out. So I'm going to pull it on this monitor. So I expect a heavy band of snow somewhere here in eastern North Carolina. This is the band I'm talking about that could throw a big monkey wrench in our forecast, because this band could be over here, could be right here, could be right here. It could be, I don't think it's going to be back in here, but it could be around Charlotte or east. So if I'm looking for an area where this is going to happen, I really think this heavy snow band, I should say, is going to be here, 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 or here, somewhere in this vicinity out in here. That's why those probabilities I showed you yesterday were the highest in those locations. So that's why the map looks the way it does. And again, this was the probabilities I showed yesterday, and I actually could increase those now because I think the chance of seeing snow is actually increased quite a bit. So before I leave you, let me show you the updated snow meter. Because we're getting ready to do this, some other people to do some stuff here in the studio, and I don't want to hold them up. But I want to show you this updated snow meter for tomorrow, because as of right now, I'm going to increase the snow meter to a 3 for the Charlotte area, mainly because I believe that there will be our first accumulating snow of the season. Now, this is right on the edge of the bread and milk. Now, you don't need to go buy bread and milk. I just do that as fun. But this is about the time frame where we get 1 inch, where people start to do crazy things. Remember, we only average about 4.3 inches of snow per winter. So a 1 inch snowfall in Charlotte is approximately 25% of our annual snowfall in one event. So when I see a 1 inch snowfall, that puts us at a 3. Now, could this go up a little bit? Sure. Could it go down? That's more likely. But the one thing I will caution you that the chance of mixing with this event is pretty high. Sleet ruins everything. If you get a couple hours of sleet on Thursday, those totals go way down. Though sleet does accumulate and counts officially as snow, if we see that accumulate, that could be a big problem. So again, let's look at the timing of this. This could come in as early as midday Thursday. And again, the timing is a little questionable too. I don't know if it'll be midday Thursday or late day, but certainly the later we get into the afternoon, the higher the chance of snow, especially by the evening hours. So kind of my checklist I like to put up just to show you where we stand. Moisture, we've got that. I don't think that's going to be an issue. Cold air above our heads, that's, up there where the clouds are. That's the important part about getting snow. Cold air at the surface. How cold is it there? There's not a really good sign there. And cold ground. Now, you can still get snow if the ground is warm. A heavy snow event will overcome a warm ground layer, but it does produce a lot of melting, and the roads typically stay wet until we get past sunset. So those are the two things in the checklist right now that we don't have. Those things change at all if we see some colder air near the surface, and it doesn't have to be freezing. If it's 33, 34, that's better than 35 or 36. Every degree lower is important for that accumulation. So my impacts right now, based on what I see for the Charlotte area, you can see the impact map here I have drawn up. Low impact for heavy snow. Right now I think it'd be wet and melting because I think it's going to be 1 inch or so. Black ice on Friday morning though. This probably could be in the moderate depending on how much black ice. That's probably our biggest issues. Don't see any outages right now. If we get some big burst of wet, heavy snow, the power outages go up. We have a lot of weak trees right now because of the tornadoes and the severe weather. That's always a concern. But to me right there, the travel issues on Friday morning by far, the biggest issues we have. So it's 9:22. I gotta give up the studio so other people can use it. I will be doing a vlog tomorrow morning. I will do Facebook Lives tomorrow night as well, and of course on Thursday throughout the event. Stay tuned for updates. This is a very dynamic system. Small changes, like I showed you in the model guidance, could have huge implications on the forecast, and for that reason, just be weather aware for winter weather. This is the fun kind of weather to be ready for. It's not severe weather. It's a nice snow. Hopefully it falls during the day and we're fine. Our only concern is going to be Friday morning. And obviously if you have travel plans Friday morning, that's the morning you need to be worried about. Not so much Thursday morning or even Thursday during the day so much. Thursday night into Friday morning looks to be the biggest issue. I'll go back and try to answer as many questions as I can. I can't promise you I get to all of them because I see got over 2,000 some people watching this right now. So we'll do the best we can getting to all those questions. And that's just on my page. That's not even on YouTube and the station page. But I'll try to get to many as possible. Tune in tonight at 11. I'll have an update. If there's any changes with the new guidance coming in tonight, we will be getting some new model runs. If I make any adjustments, I'll show that in the map tonight at 11 on WCNC. See you then.